For this retro review, we will be looking at Resident Evil.
Bizarre murder cases have recently occurred in Raccoon City. There are outlandish reports of families being attacked by a group of about 10 people. Victims were apparently eaten. Bravo team went to the hideout of the group and disappeared.
It is your job as Chris Redfield or Jill Valentine to solve the case, and most of this will take place in a creepy mansion.
However, we soon discovered why.
Resident Evil is already going to show its age once you load the game up, and it's not necessarily with the graphics or the gameplay, but in the way that the game tells the story. The ending and beginning sequences of this game are going to be filmed in FMV or full motion video, with live actors trying to act. Instead of writing up a long lengthy bit about the impact of Resident Evil, I just want to say that Resident Evil truly gave birth to what we call today survival horror. Ammo, weapon, and supplies are going to run a little bit thin. We get spoiled with checkpoints and save points in our games today. In Resident Evil, you must find ink ribbons and a typewriter to save your game. Survival truly is part of the game, creating a feeling that you don't want to stray too far from your last save point. The horror in the game doesn't come from blood, gore, and the 32-bit graphics. In fact, it comes from the terrible voice acting that you're going to encounter throughout this game. I've got a few clips here just for you.
No! Don't go!
Jill, here's a lockpick. It might be handy if you, the master of unlocking, take it with you. That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right. Barry, thanks for saving my life.
Listen, if something happens, let's meet up in this hall. This time, I'll be there.
Something that I want you to take note here is how bad the controls look. Up is forward, down is backwards, and left and right become your pivot points. Now, Resident Evil is not the only game to have the same control style, but that doesn't mean that it's any good. From getting around the mansion to enemy encounters, the controls are always getting in your way. It doesn't matter what you're trying to do, I always felt as if I was fighting with the controls in some form. Getting around a corner? Yeah, good luck with that one. So before I conclude the rest of my review on Resident Evil, I want you to understand that Resident Evil isn't just about survival or horror, but there's a larger mechanic here as well, and it's puzzle solving. In order to get from one area to the next, you must solve puzzles. Now, these aren't like Metroid puzzles where you get a new ability and you move to a next area. No, you have to find items inside the mansion and place them in the right areas to unlock, like this clock here. In my last playthrough of this game, I found how masterful these puzzles were. They're neither hard nor easy, but they're just right for about every person's skill level. So for those of you interested in puzzle solving, I think Resident Evil really does have something to offer.
Richard, what happened?
While I've given you a decent look at some of the voice acting and the cutscenes in the game that might come as a surprise to you, the control scheme is really going to be your first introduction into the gameplay, and that's where you're going to have your major problems. You're going to spend anywhere, if you're a new player to Resident Evil, 30 to 45 minutes getting really comfortable with the controls. This is a long time for a younger audience, and to be honest, I think it's going to be a deal breaker for many of you.
With me.
No problem. I'll go and get it.
Thanks.
Resident Evil has been released on many systems, including PC, PlayStation 1, the PlayStation Network, Sega Saturn, and many others, except for the Xbox. As I leave you until next time, listen to this awesome music that Resident Evil has to offer, because I didn't even talk about that.
Jill Valentine. Barry Burton. Rebecca Chambers. Albert Wesker. Resident Evil.